Hey guys, so for today's video, I wanted to see if I could recreate a picture that I saw on Pinterest on some nails, so that is what I'm going to be doing. The colors that I'm going to be using are all from Ballpit. I'm using Beach Brat, Neon Heat, Spiked Lemonade, Best Buds, Grape Snow Cone, and Mermaid Lagoon. I'm just not realizing I switched up like the order there with the purple and the blue instead of going in like rainbow order, which low-key kind of bothers me. Anyhow, that's like such a non-issue. But this picture looked really cool. It was like these rainbow blobs that were surrounded by like this textured kind of looking chrome. I'll insert a picture so you guys can see like what I'm talking about and what I'm referencing. But I thought it was really cool, and I thought it would make for a really cool, like, how many times can I say cool? I thought it'd make for a really nice like nail set or like a nail design. So the way that I'm doing this, because the rainbow blobs looked kind of almost watercolor like and kind of streaky almost, I wanted to do that technique that you put like a bunch of dots of colors on the nail, and then you take a brush and just kind of drag it through, and it creates that like streaky kind of watercolor looking type of look on the nail. So I did all my random little blobs. I did a few blobs of each color, and then I took an ombre brush. I felt like this was going to give me the best kind of like streaky look, because it is kind of like at the tip here you can see the brush is kind of sparse, and like the bristles are like kind of spread out a little bit, which help you to create an ombre. But I felt like that was going to give me the best result for this look, instead of using like a liner brush or a different kind of gel applicator brush or something. So I just went in and swiped it through, and after every time I did swipe it through the brush through the polish, I did wipe it off on a paper towel, or you can use a lint-free wipe. I tend to use a paper towel just because they're bigger and I don't go through so many, because there's a lot more space. But anyhow, I would wipe off the polish that was left behind on the brush, because I didn't want the nails to get super mixed up and end up looking muddy. I did want to be able to, see each individual color and not have them get too mixed up together. I think on this nail here, I was testing out like if I did less dots of each color to see how that would look, because on that first nail I did like 3 dots of each color, I think 3 or 4 dots, and then on this one I did like 2. I definitely preferred the one where I did more of each color rather than less of each color. I felt like it just looked a little better, and like there was just more color on the nail. But either way, both looked good. So depending on how you want your nail to look, you can do more of a color or less of a color, just kind of however you want it to look. And you could see I did add in a little bit more pink on this nail, just because I felt like there needed to be another color over on that side to kind of break up that green, because like I said, I did do less dots of the color, so like I had to do bigger dots of it so that way it would cover the entire nail, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't what I was going for. But like I said, both looks, or both what am I trying to say? Both ways of doing it looked really good, It was just, you know, the way that I did it with just 2 dots of each color wasn't what how I was wanting the nail to be. So anyhow, I went through and I did that. I didn't apply any blooming gel or anything. You probably could and get like, you know, a different kind of look with it because it would spread out and all of that. But yeah, I didn't put any blooming gel down. I just went straight in with the colors. I also didn't paint the base of the nail just because I felt like, you know, dragging the polish across the nail, it was going to, and with as much polish as there was on there, I felt like I was going to be able to cover the entire nail well. Because, you know, sometimes when you do marble, you can have some like empty spots even when you're not trying to have empty spots, and if you don't paint the base of the nail, like you just have a clear nail or something, you know. So typically when I do marble, I will take one of the colors in my marble, typically the lightest color from the marble, and paint one layer of that on the nail, so that way there's no like naked or like bald spots on the nail and there's color everywhere, even if I did end up missing a little spot. But like I said, there was enough polish on the nail and enough colors. I felt like I could swipe through enough and like spread it out enough to where it was going to cover the entire nail, and I was able to do that. So I didn't really have to worry about applying a base color to the nail. But again, depending on the kind of look you're going for and how much color you're putting on the nail, you might want to put a base color down. Or if you're just kind of like doing one swipe of it or something, like trying to do like an abstract kind of design across the nail but not like have the entire nail look like this, you know, you're gonna want a base color. But if you're doing the entire nail, then you can just, you know, go in like this and not have to worry about a base color. And then I don't know if I showed it or not. I don't think I did because I didn't on the rest of the nails I didn't do it, but I did wipe the edges off because, like I said, there is so much polish going on to the nail. I wanted to make sure it wasn't like pooling around the edges of the nail and making the nail look bulky in the same way that, like, you know, marbling can have on the nail. So I did just make sure to wipe off the edges, and then once I got all this done, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. This look is super easy to do. Anyone can do it, even a beginner. You're just putting some blobs of polish on the nail and then swiping a brush through it to create like that streaky kind of look. And once you get this part done, if you want to leave it just like that and not continue on and do like what the rest of what I'm doing in this video, you could just totally leave it like that. This set looks super cool. Like, I really loved how it looked before I put the chrome on. I did really like how it looked after the chrome was on as well, but like, I don't know, just something about it without the chrome and just like this streaky rainbow kind of nail just looked really cool, especially here in time for summer. Also, with it being Pride, this is a really fun set for Pride because of all the rainbow and everything. It's just a really cool look and a really fun, really easy, not very time consuming design to do. I will say though, if you are doing this on yourself or another person, you do want to be very careful when adding these blobs and then pulling the brush through, because you don't want to flood the cuticles and you don't want to get like all the polish on their skin. So I would probably recommend not going right up next to like your sidewalls and the cuticle area, and leaving a little space there, and then using your brush to kind of push the polish or drag the polish closer. That way you're not running the risk of potentially flooding the nail. Also, you don't want to do too big or of globs of the polish, because again, you could run into flooding. But if you're just doing it on a set of press-ons, like, it really isn't that big of an issue. I mean, you do still kind of want to be mindful, because you don't want it dripping off the nail and onto your fingers as you're holding the stands and whatever. But you especially want to be mindful when doing this on an actual person. And here I am just showing you how it looks after I had cured it. Like I said, it looks super cool. I really love it. It does give kind of a watercolor kind of feel to it, and I just love the streakiness of it, which is so funny because, you know, typically you don't want your polish to look streaky, but like, that's what makes this kind of design look good, is that streakiness. So yeah, I just thought it was a really fun, cute design here, even just on its own. But like I said, I am going to be adding the chrome on top, so I'm just going in here now with the anti-chrome matte top coat from Ballpit and applying this to all of the nails. That way the chrome doesn't stick to the base. And then once I get this on, I do go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And then I did also want to show you guys what it looked like matte. I thought this looked so good being matte. Like, I liked how it looked when it was shiny as well, but this set I think looks a lot better. Like, if you were just leaving it like this, it looks a lot better matte in my opinion, and it really does give that like watercolor look. Like, if you were to use watercolor paint on like paper or like a canvas or something, it really gives that watercolor look. So I just thought it looked so good. But anyhow, now I'm just going in with the Emo Black Liner Gel from Ballpit. I always use this for chrome. Ever since I got it, I started using it for like my isolated chrome designs, and it works so well. I highly recommend this for isolated chrome designs just because it works really well with chrome. And I'm just going in and doing some little blobs. These blobs are going to be the rainbow blob, so I will go in afterwards and fill in the rest of the space with the black liner gel here. But I just went through all of the nails, did my little blobs that I wanted, and I didn't cure in between doing any of this or like flash cure or anything, because, and I've mentioned this before, like overlapping, I knew the polish was going to end up overlapping when I filled it all in, and like overlapping the gel, it does leave a raised layer because it is like multiple layers of gel on it, and I just didn't like that. So I thought it would be a lot quicker for me, at least, to go through and do all my little blob outlines first, and then go through after I get all that done and fill in the rest of the space. So here I am now, just going in with that same liner gel and just filling in the rest of that space so I can have, you know, the blobs there and then do the rest of it chrome. I did realize on this pinky nail that there was way more black area, which was going to end up being the chrome, than what I wanted. So on the rest of the nails, I don't know if I show this or not. I can't remember. We'll find out in a few minutes. But I did end up wiping off this pinky nail and redoing it. But for the rest of the nails, I just went in and added some more of like the little blobs that I wanted, because I wanted more of the rainbow background to pop through rather than having more chrome on the nail, if that makes sense. I think it'll make a lot more sense once you see this nail fully painted and see how little of the rainbow is showing through versus the other nails that I'm going to do. And you'll see that I did add some more of the little blobs, and you'll see there's way more rainbow showing through and less of the black that is going to end up being the chrome. So yeah, I didn't realize, like, I didn't think about that, and I didn't realize it until after I had gotten this entire pinky nail done, and then, or at least the entire pinky nail filled in, because I did end up, like I said, wiping this off and redoing it so I could have more of the rainbow showing through. But I just lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, I was talking about adding more of the blobs because I wanted more of the rainbow. I don't know. Anyhow, with this liner gel, and really with any thicker gel polish, or even with just any kind of black polish, you do want to make sure you're doing a nice thin layer. That way everything cures properly and you don't have any issues with it curing. See, once I finished that, you could see that there just wasn't enough. Oh, I do kind of show here me filling in with some more blobs so I could have less black space. But you can really see on that pinky one there that it was way more black than what I was anticipating or what I was wanting. But yeah, you want to make sure you're doing a nice thin layer to make sure that everything is going to cure properly and you're not going to end up with any wrinkling. I have accidentally done that before with this black liner gel here, of doing too thick of a layer, and it does wrinkle and doesn't cure right. So I mean, that's with any kind of polish. You want to make sure you're doing it thin layers, and especially being mindful with these thicker gels like liner gels and like the paint gels and all of that, especially with this emo black liner gel from Ballpit, because it is super pigmented and it is on the thicker side, so you really want to be careful and make sure you are doing a thin layer. A little bit of it does go a long way. It does spread out pretty far and really nicely, and it's still super pigmented, and it covers, you only need one coat of it. You don't need to do multiple coats, which is really nice. But yeah, make sure you are doing nice thin layers of that. So yeah, I just went through and did the rest of the nails, added some more blobs where I felt like I needed another blob so I could have some more rainbow peeking through, and then just went ahead and filled in all the rest of the space with the black polish here. And again, I wasn't curing at all in between each nail, so once I finished one nail, I just put it on the nail stand and just let it sit there while I worked on the other nails, because for this polish, or for this gel, you don't want to cure it for the full 60 seconds if you're going to use it for chrome, because the chrome won't stick to it. And depending on your light and how it cures, like, that's something you're gonna have to test out and see. But I know I've seen other people, they'll cure for 30 seconds and then the chrome sticks really well. For me, when I cured it for 30 seconds, it didn't fully stick. It was kind of like if you fully cure the gel and then, you know, the chrome just kind of slides right off of it. So for me, I do cure this for 15 seconds. And again, just to make things easier for me and to kind of have this go a little bit quicker, I decided to just paint them all at once, and then I would do the chrome individually. I always do like chrome individually, like cure each nail individually, and then apply the chrome individually and not all at once, because I've had issues before where like the first one will look good and the chrome will stick, but then by the time I get to the last one, the chrome's just not sticking anymore. So yeah, I just felt like this was gonna go a little bit, I don't want to say a lot quicker, but I felt like I was going to go a little bit quicker if I went through, painted them all first, and then do the chrome after I get them all painted. That way I wasn't switching back and forth between painting the nail and then applying the chrome, and then painting the nail and applying the chrome. You know, that whole back and forth is kind of a little annoying. Also, this part isn't super hard either. This entire nail set really isn't that hard, and I really do feel like anybody could do it because you're just doing some blobs. They don't have to be like perfect circles or anything. They can be as squiggly and wiggly as you want them to be, or, you know, even if you're not intentionally trying to make them all wiggly and stuff, like, it's still going to look good, because that's kind of, this set is like, you know, an abstract type of set, and it's easier to get away with like those squiggly and like messed up kind of lines with an abstract set, because it's not supposed to look a certain way. It's just kind of, you know, there, and it's however it looks is however it looks. So that's why I feel like this set is really good for beginners. And while it's not a difficult set to do, it is kind of tedious and time consuming with doing all the circles and then filling in all the space. That does take a bit of time, and, you know, obviously you don't have to do all the nails like this. You could just have this be like an accent nail or have it on a couple nails or something. But, you know, if you wanted to make all of your nails look like this, then obviously you can. But if you don't want to spend a whole bunch of time painting on some blobs and then filling in the rest of the space with some black polish, then you don't have to, you know. But it does take quite a bit of time to do all this, and I will admit I am fairly slow. I mean, you can see this is in real time. I didn't speed it up at all or anything. And most of my videos are in real time, unless I say otherwise. They're all in real time. There are times where I'll be like, yeah, this is sped up, even if it's only sped up like 1.5. I will mention it, even though like with it being sped up to like 1.5, it really doesn't look like it's sped up because that's how slow I move. But yeah, my videos are for the most part all in real time, so you can see how long it does actually take me to paint this. And I also feel like having it in real time helps for those that are just starting out, or when you're seeing something new and you're trying to figure out how to do it. It helps to see it like in real time instead of sped up, because then you can really see what's happening and how to do it and all of that. So that's why I like to try and keep my stuff in real time for the most part. But like I said, sometimes there are times where I need to speed things up because the video is way too long. So after I got all that done, I would take one nail, then I would cure for 15 seconds, rub the chrome on, and then stick it back in the lamp to cure for the full 60 seconds. That way there was no uncured gel on the nail, because you know we don't want uncured gel. So if you are doing chrome and you're only partially curing the polish to get the chrome to stick, you do have to stick it back in the lamp after getting the chrome on to fully cure it. That way you don't have any uncured gel on the nail. And I just went through and did that for all of the nails. And then after I got all the chrome on, I did take a clean sponge and wipe off any of the excess chrome powder that was on the nail. I didn't show that part. And then after getting all the chrome on, I did go in with my shiny top coat from LGN, which I don't typically use whenever I do isolated chrome designs, but the bottle that I was using was almost empty, so I didn't really care if any chrome particles got in there. Typically you do want to use a separate bottle of polish whenever you do chrome, because the particles can get in there and contaminate your top coat, and then you're going to end up having glittery sets when you don't want glittery sets. But like I said, this bottle was almost empty, so I didn't really care. Got all of them top coated and then cured for 60 seconds, and then when I pulled them out, I wasn't really feeling the rainbow part being shiny because I really liked how it looked matte. So I did end up off camera testing it out and seeing what it would look like if I matte top coated the entire nail, and I didn't like how the chrome looked being matte, so then I just went back and left them shiny. Although I do think it would be really cool, because it was looking really cool before I top coated it, to have the rainbow be matte and the chrome be shiny. But also I didn't want to go through and like individually top coat each little blob or individually top coat all the chrome and all of that, because that was going to take a lot longer, and it already took me forever to do this set because, like I said, doing the blobs and filling in all the black was a very time consuming, tedious task. And just going in and having to individually and separately top coat stuff was just going to take even longer, so I did end up leaving everything shiny. But like I said, I feel like it was looking really cool with the rainbow being matte and the chrome being shiny. But you know, that's up to you. If you want the entire nail to be matte, you can have it be matte. If you want the entire nail to be shiny, you can make it shiny. If you want to do the dual kind of top coat where some of it's matte, some of it's shiny, you can do that as well. It's all up to you and how you want the set to look. I feel like no matter what, it's going to look really nice. But like I said, I wasn't really liking how the chrome was looking being matte. That was just my personal preference, so I did leave it shiny. Also, I know in the reference picture that I posted, the chrome part or the silver part was kind of like textured looking. I didn't want to do that. I wanted everything to be nice and smooth, so I didn't do the texture. But if you wanted texture, you could use some sort of like texture gel or whatever to create that texture and then put chrome over it. But this is the finished result. I really love this set. It's super fun, it's super bright and colorful, perfect for summer, perfect for Pride, and like I said, it's an easy set. It is kind of time consuming, but it is easy and anyone can do it. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.